Hi, everyone. Welcome to Two Bald Guys Talking Safety. I'm Langdon DeMint,
And I'm Julian Taylor.
and welcome to our podcast. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Two Bald Guys Talking Safety. I'm number one bald guy, Langdon DeMint, with my shared number one.
Thank you very much. Waiting to see what was going to come there. Yeah,
You like that, didn't you? How's it going, Jules?
it's good. I've had the hair cropped especially so that I feel comfortable in the bald guy situation.
It is about time. We've gone a little lower. How are things across the pond?
Well, it's good apart from the head's feeling rather cold because, as per usual, Great British summer, we had 2 days of heat wave and then it's cloudy, grey and cold again. So
I saw, what was that? A few days ago, I saw, was it Scotland?
Scotland, the sun was seen in Scotland.
And like what, for 20 degrees Celsius or whatever, I think I saw over there.
Yeah, I think it might have even been higher. Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty. I mean, here we're in the depths of Tennessee. We've entered the bowels of the beginnings of the heat. We've had some humidity, and I think a couple of days ago it hit 90. So we are.
I love it when you say it hit 90. I have no idea what you're talking about.
Hot. It's hot. Microwave. It's one of those. It's one of those when you take a shower, then you walk outside and you sweat for like 5 minutes, and you're like, I got to take another shower. So we're embarking on this. But have you been able to play any golf lately?
I've played a little bit of golf. Yeah. And Caroline always says to me, how did you get on? And I say, some good holes, some bad holes. And that kind of is pretty much summing it up at the moment.
It's a true journey.
As somebody said to us when we did a live event a few weeks ago, a good walk spoiled, which is quite a regular response. And it has felt rather like that. I might just not take the clubs next time and just walk.
Just walk the golf course.
Maybe it won't spoil it. So
You could do invisible golfing, so you walk it, but you just just like make a putt and feel really good about it.
yeah,
It's not a bad idea. You're coming in clear on a different note.
this is a major step forward. I think we need to explain to the audience that the tech we use has been interesting the last few times we've done a pod where I could barely hear Langdon talking,
Or vice versa.
and vice versa. So it's really innovative that we can actually hear each other today. So it actually might be a better quality of pod, hopefully, as a result of it.
For the rest of us, it's innovative. Just side note.
Okay. Yeah.
But it sounds better when it comes from your perspective.
Innovative.
Innovative. Yeah, so this should be good because I can hear you well, very well, as well. So this should be, yeah. And I concur. Yeah. Well, this month, in kind of shifting a little bit, and I don't know if you're aware, and I don't know, we have, what is it? World Safety Day is April 28th, I want to say, usually. I don't know, does the UK, does it have a like safety month framework? I don't recall.
No. I think there's things like safety days and
Sure.
yeah.
Well, here we have a designated safety month. Now, I say here, it's an NSC thing, and I like it. It's a good push, but it's fairly adopted-ish, I think, just from the perspective of, it's something that NSC is doing. So everybody, that's the National Safety Council for those if you happen to not know. But putting forth and just trying to put health and safety at the focus. And I like it because every year, not only is it that whole month, but then every week there is a different thing. Now I know as this podcast is going to be released, it'll be a little later, but I think it's something worth even thinking about. Maybe some reflecting, and then how can we adopt this for a continual? So do we need to make safety 1 month, Jules?
Well, I was going to say, if we have safety month in June, does that mean we don't do safety the rest of the year? We can just take the time out.
Party month in July.
Yeah, yeah.
But that's a good point. And I wonder if, every year it kind of, to me, if we don't watch out, it becomes the whole, what's the top 10 incidents that happen every year, this and it's pretty easy to become, I'm not going to say numb, but numb to, your top incidents, your slip, trip, and falls, your top uh, OSHA, what you call it, violations. So, but they're usually going to be some of the hot topics, quote unquote, because they are the constant nags or the constant issues that we see. So this week we had emergency preparedness, slip, trip, falls, heat related illnesses, and hazard recognition.
Yeah.
Which, to me, I always like talking about hazard recognition just because that's one of the, I feel like, forefronts really of anything we should do. Whether you're driving, not even in the work, that's a pretty pertinent one. But I don't know. I think you could almost think of that, and then every week. I mean, we have 52 weeks a year. We could start, Jules, our own safety years
Safety, yeah, National Safety Year
every year.
every year. Yeah, 12 months. Yeah,
Sounds tiring, but it's not a bad idea. But I think as we think about it, what I like is, what if what if we did do to that extent? What if organizations thought about it more from, and I get there's a lot of places that this is a big step, putting a big focus on a national safety month. And I think it's great. But what if we do that every month? So it is, in essence, a national safety year every year.
but that was my thought. I'm a bit of a cynic, Langdon. Well, I'm a cynic because I'm always cynical with you.
No.
But we have so many of these national days, national months, national weeks, and in most cases, what you look at, you think, well, actually, we should just be doing that all the time.
Mm-hmm.
We shouldn't need a month or a week or a special day to focus. We should be doing it all the time.
Yeah.
And I know when we were talking about this, 52 subjects might be slightly challenging.
Well, you're going to, every year is going to be the.
Even for a Jedi like you, it might be slightly challenging to come up with 52 sort of different subjects. And there's a danger, doesn't it, that actually, if we have 52 subjects, it loses its impact slightly because it's, what they're going to talk about this week. But I actually think what you could do as an organisation is say, right, let's have a subject per month. So I don't think that's overbearing. So 12 subjects through the course of the year. And we're going to focus on those. Those are the things that we're going to focus on. And then we can start to say, right, okay, so for each month, that's our subject. What are we going to do to support it? What are the things that we can do to support that? Yeah. So I'm going to let you go first, Langdon. What's one of the first things that we could do as part of our monthly program?
You know what I like about that, and then I'm going to tell you. I'll give you this. We did a few years ago. I was working for an organization. I've actually been pretty fortunate. Both of them, the last two that I've been at, kind of had. We did themes. Wasn't always. I feel like the best in its implementation. I'm not going to say application, but I think implementation as far as the cadence of kind of that theme. But I like that because if you frame everything around it for that month, it's not going to be an everyday, and that's fine. It's the cognizance of everyone understanding, though. Hey, there is a theme. We've been talking about for the last couple of weeks, whatever hazard recognition, all, and before they do their job, think about it. What is something I should look for? What's something I should see? And just that extra thought, and that's why I do like that
Yeah.
idea. And for me, I always like starting off. I mean, it's a quote unquote training, learning, whatever, but I like starting off with just a general. You're getting people together, even if it's your whatever, whatever falls the first through the third of the month, whatever day that falls on. Just getting everyone together, and this could be a pre-job startup talk, quick toolbox talk. Hey, our theme of the month for this is 5 minutes. We're going to have some framed around hazard recognition.
Yep.
Does everyone know what we mean when we say hazard recognition? So for me, I kind of like a setting, not a precedent, but setting a tone maybe for what are we doing, getting getting a little bit of discussion around it with the workers. Hey, what are you do you know what hazard recognition is? You feel like you're actively doing it? When's the last time you saw something? So I just kind of like what is that? Setting the tone, maybe. That's kind of that's what I like.
Yeah, I think it's a great opportunity to just make sure that we've got a subject, and we do refresher training every month for our people. And again, it just prompts us to go out and make sure we refocus and refresh people on stuff. And I think a really important element of that refreshing, Langdon, is actually why. So something like hazard recognition, why is it important to actually be able to recognise and tell people about hazards? We often forget the why bit. We talk about what they are and how you report them and all the other stuff, but actually, what we don't do is remind people about why there's a value to people, why there's a value to an individual of looking for hazards. Yeah.
I like that. And to me, one reason I really like that is because eh, how often have you been in an organization? I know I have, where it's something that might not be as applicable of a topic to whatever an office worker. It's more out on the floor in the construction. Some of the people that are spending more time in the office because they're not up on the scaffolding, whatever. So then there is a relevancy, and not everyone is really engaged in that topic. Whereas if it's something we all, because what happens when they leave the office and they walk through the floor one day, and if they weren't taking part or very actively involved in that topic, let's say it was hazard recognition. Oh, I see Jules up there on the scaffolding. Yeah, he's not tied off. Should he be? I don't know. Let's keep going. But I think that's something also important too. Is when we do this, keeping everyone involved in this. You might have to do different setups, but to me, that's something I think we underplay quite a bit.
Well, I think kind of tying into that subject, my number two then is actually leadership involvement. So actually, we need leadership supporting this, talking about it, going out and coaching people when they're out on the shop floor, actually showing that, yeah, what we're talking about each month is important, and it's something that people need to focus on. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think it's great. And just because we know health and safety is not the most exotic. Some things can be, depending on what your environment is. But
I don't know whether I don't know whether exotic's the right word. I've got some rather dodgy images in my mind. I think maybe interesting or engaging.
I'm thinking like exotic cars. I'm not going. You went a little X-rated for us here, but I understand. I can relate to that. So yes, maybe we'll go with that. Um, but if you think about it, it's not flashy all the time. Sometimes it can be.
It's not exciting.
Yeah, it can be, but sometimes you do have there's an element of mundane on certain aspects, I think. But it's how we contort that, how we make that, if it is something that seems kind of, oh, I gotta wear my pee-pee, I gotta put it hot, I gotta put my glove, how do you spice it up to understand why does it matter? Why are we doing this? And I think that's something we also have to keep in mind when we're getting leadership involved when we're doing these. Because if you have monthly calendars, and it's pretty much, it can, I think, be repeatable, just changing topics out, where you have the quick toolbox talk, setting the stage, then you do a training, then you do something on, hey, how do you, whatever, but get together. How do you do reporting? Maybe it's a lunch a month. I mean, let's be honest. Bringing in a massive chicken nugget tray or something just to talk about it.
I was going to go pizza.
Well, you got to change it up. I like pizza. That's good too. But,
Well, I think you maybe hit on a good point there, which is you need to change up the lunch menu each month. You can't just do the same. Not chicken nuggets again is not something you want to hear.
yeah.
We've got to mix it up in terms of the food. Yeah.
I think, honestly, it's not the regular pizza party. It's not the ice cream party. It's
Yeah.
not keep it. You even have themes for your food that coincides with whatever. But I do think there's something to that. And because what we're trying to do in essence is, if you have constant monthly topics, and again, it doesn't have to be harped on heavily. What we're in essence trying to do is integrating health and safety into everything. We're trying to make safe operations just a
Yeah.
part. So it's not just that safety culture, quote unquote,
Yeah.
just trying to mix with everything else. And I think there is a reason incident rates have gone down, but have plateaued. SIFs, fatalities, they've kind of, for the most part, they've plateaued, but they've gone up this year with this past reference point a couple of years ago. So it's always the fluctuating. So what does that mean? All that being said, it means that over the last 20 years, we've seen great improvements, but it also means that we are leveling off. Whether here, UK statistics are pretty similar of how they're looking, and even in the broader EU and other regions. So it's that, what can we do differently? And I think that's what we're trying to get across, because there's so much discussion, experts around human performance, around psychological safety, and this and that, and getting engagement. But are we doing, and I think that's great, but I wonder, are we doing enough of the granular to really coincide with that? What do you think?
Yeah. I think I like the idea of this because it's just that it's that it's that regular thing that people come to expect. It's not some kind of new initiative. It would just be a regular thing. And if you get into a regular way of doing things, people get used to it and they participate. And I think if you can make it fun, you do something like a lunch and learn with your chicken nuggets or your ice cream. That engages people. I think you need to make sure that you've got some kind of coaching culture alongside that so that people are talking about it on the shop floor. And so if it slips, trips, and falls, they might go and coach people around the way they're doing their job. And the other thing I was thinking is at the end of each month, you should have some kind of reflection and feedback and lessons learned from it as well. So, and again, there could be some kind of gamification or rewards around that. So, actually, if it's hazard recognition month, which teams reported the most hazards and have some kind of promotion, just promote the success of that team and what they've done. So whether there's some kind of prize aligned to it, I don't know. That's a decision for each organisation. But that kind of, we don't just do it and then walk away and forget about it. We reflect back on actually what did we achieve from it. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think, especially for that, I think you can also kind of turn a little bit and think of, when we talk about that engagement piece, we're hitting a part, and we've been going over this for the last few years. We talked about perfect storm of aging workforce, morbidities going up, costs going up, healthcare costs, and other insurance. But I think if you take a step at the beginning of that, and you'll see where I'm tying this in, when we try to figure out whether it be gamification, whether it be some type of whatever engagement drawing piece, as we're trying, ultimately, what we're wanting to do is establish camaraderie, but then also,
Boom. There it is, camaraderie.
but also how can we draw that and drive that engagement to varying demographics? And I think that is something that we struggle with because I don't know that there is a right answer to this yet. I was reading, um, it was, I guess it was a day or so ago, and I don't remember any statistics, so I'm going to mess it all up. But the premise was, I think it was either Apple or Facebook. See, we're already getting it messed up, but they unveiled some new virtual goggles or virtual reality goggles or something here recently. And I just remember seeing the headline that it was talking about how much these goggles, like, we're going to reduce low or younger people's communication. And I started thinking about that. And again, I didn't read it. It was one of those, I saw it and I was just kind of like, I'll read it later because that is a little interesting to me. Because we already know younger generation have a massive problem with communication because they're so used to, and everyone, what I'm showing right now is my cell phone and the texting. And that's been proven that, statistics have shown, research has shown there is a reduction in understanding how to have face-to-face communication, how to have that, even how to type out, because
Yeah.
it's all LOL, JKs, BOBs, BO, whatever. So if you think about that, and now you have something like this where younger workers, younger people, and then they're going to come into the workforce in the future, they start not having that communication. How do we bridge that when we have workers who are having to work older than they ever have for, or at least for a long period of time, whether it be from an economical standpoint or whatever? That's a big issue. And especially when we're trying to think, how can I talk health and safety to a 20-year-old? And then I have a 75-year-old and I'm in a serious construction or manufacturing or environment. I think that's something that's going to become a massive challenge.
Yeah, I do think in terms of, I don't think it's even just safety. I think it's any business operation. I think what you've got to think about, right? How do we communicate most effectively to the people who work for our organisation? And I think sometimes I've got a phrase that my old boss used to use, which is behaviour breeds behaviour. And actually, I think what a really important area of that is actually going and talking to people encourages them to talk back to you. So I think by choosing, right, how we're going to communicate, and we're going to communicate face to face, that will change the perception of you as a safety professional, um, because you've chosen to do that. So things like the sort of lunch and learns of getting people in a room together and actually talking to them massively has a massive effect, because the danger is those other communication methods, they just don't have that impact. And we've all got sucked into this way of life. I was talking to people within our team just the other day, and we were talking about the best ways to communicate, and their natural instinct is to go to an email. And you say, well, actually, hang on a minute. Have you stop and think about emails? And have you ever not read an email? Have you ever misunderstood an email? Have you ever lost an email? But also just that voice tone, that body language, all that stuff that gives communication warmth is missing from messaging and email. So I think part of what we've got to do is, even if there are different generations in our business, is think about, right, what's the best way to communicate, and use that to drive a change in the sort of reaction that you're going to get from the people that you're trying to communicate with. And if you're going to do things like safety months, actually one of the key things is, right, how do we communicate? Yeah. Um,
Well, especially when you have that, I think that you're right. When you have a month, you can do different.
the danger of, if you have a month, the danger of messages is they just lose the impact, and people stop reading them and people stop reacting to them. The human element is so important if you're going to do things like this, is actually just interact with people effectively. Yeah. um, it's I mean, going off at a bit of a tangent, I was reading an article the other day, and again, I'm going to be completely unscientific about this and not talk about any facts or. Well, the only fact I'm going to give you is it was suggesting that the average human being has a shorter attention span than a goldfish now. It's less than 7 seconds. And you stop and think about it. We've created a world, haven't we, with these communication devices called mobile phones, and actually stop people from communicating effectively because we're just so used to either pinging a message out or sending an emoji, whatever it might be. Or if you're one of my daughters, you just read it and then don't reply to it. So
Even if it warranted a reply.
even if it warrants a reply, yeah, unless there's finance involved, you don't get a reply with children. But what I'm saying is we've got to think, right, if that's the world we live in, how do we do things differently so we don't get hamstrung or hindered by it?
Yeah. No, I agree. That's, well, and I don't remember if we were doing this on a podcast. I know you and I were talking about this in the last couple of weeks, but I can recall when I was in, I think it was maybe high school. So, over 20 years ago, they said out of I think it was either 50 minutes or an hour was the study at the time. Anybody would pick up, and it wasn't just like at my school. That was kind of I don't know if it was national or international, but they would say out of an hour talk, you would pick up the first 3 to 5 minutes, the last 3 to 5 minutes, and you might get something in the middle, like a little piece. But the rest of it was just, I'm not going to say wash, but so if it was that way then, so you're looking at an hour and you say, let's be positive here and say 10 to 15 minutes were truly absorbed without having to go back and review. Now it's got to be less. Just to your point, it's not even remotely.
Yeah, when you look at the numbers, Langdon, for how much stuff people retain from being talked at, it's minimal. Even if it's a really engaging speaker, you might remember that speaker was engaging, but if somebody said, "Right, tell me the facts and figures," actually, it's amazing how little you would actually retain. Yeah, Langdon was just pulling his kind of dumber face there.
Yeah. Well.
So I think if we're going to run initiatives like this, where we're saying, right, every month we're going to have this approach, we've got to think really carefully about, right, how do we launch it? How do we train people? How do we coach people? How do we have some kind of feedback loop that's effective and engaging, and make sure that we learn from each month. We don't just do it for the sake of doing it. And I think that's my issue with kind of safety months and all the other sort of initiatives that you see around different things. Is it becomes this thing that we just do it every year because we started it, so we just do it. I mean, how many years has National Safety Month been going?
I don't know the answer to that.
26 years or something.
Is it that long? I don't. It might.
I might be wrong there, but so don't hold me to that. But it's a long time. Why do we need to keep doing that? Yeah,
When does it become It's the 58th annual safety month. Yeah,
that's it. Yeah,
that's true.
yeah. Bunch of old people hanging around talking about safety because they've always done it. Yeah, we've done it for the last 50 years, so we'll keep doing it.
Yeah, and I think that actually is a really good point also, because then it's the whole, what is driving it and why are we doing it? And on the flip side, it's that, it is a fine line, right, of making it fresh, making it worthwhile, and not just being, what's our theme of the month? Here we go. Well, the theme of the month is blah. It's blah. And I think that's what I like about it, is it is that differential, that if we can figure out how to make it not just oh, it's Christmas, here we go, light safety, winter safety, what do we got? Mix it up just to try to make it, because there is, and you're always going to have some people that look at it from the redundancy negative aspect, not wanting that adverse effect, but just here we go.
I tell you what, we could ask, and it is actually for people who are listening to this pod. Hopefully, there's at least a couple of people out there listening to this podcast. sh- let's go optimistic. Let's go for two. But for our two regular listeners, be great if you could just put in the comments wherever you're listening to the pod. Maybe what some of those monthly subjects could be, because I think it's great to get real world thoughts in terms of what should we be talking about, and maybe something a bit different to the classical. Let's talk about slips, trips, and falls because that's the number one thing, and everybody always talks about it. Yeah. What are the other things that we could be using as monthly subjects? Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think it's a great idea.
We could almost leave it there, couldn't we, Langdon? We could almost.
It's on you, everyone.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll turn it over to our audience.
Yeah. Yep. I'm done with the podcast. I turn it to you, Jules, and the rest of the audience to put up some perspective.
And then we could say that and maybe talk about it in the next pod. Yeah.
I think it's a good idea. Well, what do you think? I feel like we've about at our time for the day.
Yeah. I think we've just about battered the life out of not having annual months, but let's just do it all the time.
Yeah. Just keep it fresh.
Yeah. But keep it fresh. Think about how you're going to communicate, get leadership involved. But just have a focus, have a monthly focus.
Yeah. Well,
and the pod has included your two favourite words, hasn't it? Camaraderie and ice cream.
Knocked it out of the park.
There we go.
Well, everyone, we do appreciate your time once again. We look forward to hopefully hearing some of your perspectives, and also, I think even mention if you've had trouble doing this or if you've had good success doing it. Because really, what we know, what we realize is what's good for one organization might not be good for another, but there might be little pieces that are. And I think as you go about, put that, let's learn from one another and try to grow together. And also, as you're going about your days, let's watch each other's back out there. Stay safe, everyone. Everyone, really appreciate you tuning into this episode of Two Bald Guys Talking Safety. Please follow and subscribe to wherever you stream your favorite podcast, or visit us at evotix.com.
And if you want to see how follically challenged we really are, come and check us out on YouTube. If you've got value from the podcast, please go to Apple Podcasts, and in the review section of this podcast, if you could leave us a review or a rating, that would be great.
And as always, everyone, while you're going about your days, about your normal lives, stay safe out there and watch each other's back.